It's me! In this episode, we're going to talk about what you should be charging for what you do. This is a really common question that people starting out on their own struggle with. I know I did. But before we go on and talk through the question, there are a few things I need to make clear. The context, if you like. I'm based in the UK. The accent probably gave that away. And the sort of services I offer through my agency are filming, editing, pre-production consultancy, written content, SEO, that kind of thing. So there's a very heavy marketing bias here. So if you're looking to start making a living from something along those lines, maybe marketing, maybe web design, maybe photography, essentially a service-based business, then this is likely going to be of some value to you. If you're looking at starting a product business, t-shirt printing, candle making, jewellery, that kind of thing, then this one might not be quite so useful. I also need to stress that everything I say is based on my personal experiences running a business. It isn't necessarily good advice for your specific circumstances, so take it with a pinch of salt. That being said, let's get to the good stuff. When you first set your pricing, you're going to get it wrong. But that's okay, because it isn't set in stone. You can, and likely will, change what you charge quite a lot in the early days of your business. And that's okay. There are two ways, essentially, that you can work out how much to charge for what you do. The first way is to look at how much it costs you to do what you do, add a reasonable profit margin on top of that, and that becomes your rate. The second is to look at what other people who do similar things are charging and make a judgment about where you want to position yourself in the market. Let's look at that first one. For the purposes of this, let's say you're a writer and you've decided to sell your services writing online content for businesses looking to improve their SEO. I'll assume you already own a computer to write on. You're probably working from home, so already have a dining room table and internet. Everyone claims, and this, by the way, is something we're going to talk about a lot in the future. Everyone claims that in the early days of their businesses, they didn't take a wage, so there's no cost there. So what does it actually cost you to write a 1,000-word article? You're going to spend a couple of hours doing some keyword research, then you'll sit down and knock out the first draft. If you're good at writing, and it's a subject that interests you, then you can probably do that in an hour or so. You'll run a spelling and grammar check. You'll probably read it out loud to try and pick up any sections that don't flow well, and that gives you a more polished draft you can submit to the client. If you're uploading it for the client as well as writing it, you may take an hour or so to format it to make it look the way it should, possibly source a couple of free images from somewhere like Unsplash, and the job's done. It's likely taken you a day, and your direct cost of sale is nothing. Add a nice healthy 50% profit margin on top of your cost of nothing, and you're left with an end price of, well, still nothing. This is not a good way to set your price. How about pricing by the word? Writers seem to do that all the time. 10p a word is a fairly standard rate for a freelance writer, according to a quick Google search. So a 1,000-word article would be £100. Add 50% to that and you get £150. Is that more reasonable? No, that's not a good way to set your price either. It doesn't allow for the keyword research. It doesn't allow for the editing, the polishing, the formatting, the image searching. In fact, the only bit it actually covers is the hour you spent writing. Bingo. The bit you did that involved skill, knowledge and experience, the actual writing, took an hour. And based on word count, that should cost about £100 for 1 hour. Multiply that up and you get a day rate of £750 for a standard 7.5-hour day. I'm guessing that at this point you're probably shaking your head and thinking this is far too much. Maybe you're right. But the price for a 1,000-word article is going to vary massively based on who you get to write it. This is where the second method for calculating your price comes in. You could go to Fiverr.com and get a 1,000-word article written by a barely literate freelancer for a few pounds. Or you could go to one of the most prestigious agencies in the world and go through a long and drawn-out process of identifying your brand voice, creating numerous customer personas, working out exactly what it is you're hoping to communicate with them, and then have them do that communication on your behalf. And you'd be paying in excess of 6 figures for that. Suddenly, £750 doesn't sound too bad. There are a few things you absolutely have to keep at the forefront of your mind when you're going through this process. The first is that you are definitely going to sell yourself short, and you will definitely come to regret that later. We all do. The second is that you simply can't be the cheapest option. However much you charge, however low you're willing to go, somebody will undercut you. And so competing on price alone is a recipe for disaster. You have to set your pricing based on the value you provide for your customers. They aren't buying a page of words from you. They're renting your years of experience and knowledge for a day to help them attain their business goals. Feel free to be flexible. If it's a job you really want to do, offer them a special rate. If you really need the work, then allow yourself to be negotiated down. But you can always drop your prices. It's much, much harder to put them up again. But there's even more to consider here. If you're truly looking to make some serious money from this in the long term, then your plan needs to include employing other people, whether as direct employees or as freelancers. If you sell your own hours, then you effectively cap your maximum earnings. There are only so many hours in the day that you can work. So the day rate you set now has to cover paying someone to do the work for you. It may have to pay for their equipment, their holiday pay, possibly even an office for them to work in. In reality, you're probably going to end up settling on a figure somewhere between £400 and £800 as a day rate, and you're probably going to feel like a fraud to start off with. But these first few months of your journey, when you feel like a criminal for charging so much, are the time when you can put some of that money aside. You can build up a bit of a cushion so that you can use that in future to turn your freelance writing gig into a fully fledged agency. We'll talk about that more in a future video, but for now, I'd love to know what you think. Does this feel reasonable to you, or have I completely missed the mark? How did you set your day rate? Was it just an arbitrary figure you pulled out of the air? Did you even set one? Do you make it up depending on what you think your clients can pay? Let me know in the comments below. And until the next time, have a great day.
Help